All right, party people. I just realized my mic was on the entire time. Glad to have y'all in. You were probably hearing that thing in the background snoring up a storm. I don't have the heart to kick her out right now. For some reason, that's her spot, and she doesn't seem happy if she's not there. Just freaking starting a two-stroke engine. So, what's up, Michele? Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you here. Let's get you hooked up with some Quai. You know how we do it around here, folks. Swing by, say hi, earn some Quai thanks to Kipper.money. Boop. Check the QR code up above or go head on over to Kipper.money. We are giving away free Quai on these live streams every single time we go live. So it's free Quai. Share it with friends, family, neighbors. Let's help excuse me. Let's help get this account over 1,100 followers because I still have a stack of Quai branded Tangent wallets to give away. So, oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Yeah. So that's the deal, guys. Today we'll be diving back into the Gentoo Linux virtual machine here. We've come a long way. We have fully installed Gentoo from scratch following the docs. We got a desktop environment up and running. And we're going to continue to GUIfy the whole experience, make it a much more graphical experience for you. So you can follow along and learn how to build out your own Gentoo desktop environment. There are much easier ways, I'll say out the gate, to get up and running on Linux. But for those of you who are aware, most Linux distributions use what's called systemd. There are only a handful of Linux distributions that use OpenRC as their init system. And so that's something that might be interesting to you if you're not a fan of operating systems forcing users to verify their age. There is a small potential that these Linux distributions in the very near future, thanks to some of the laws being passed in Utah and California, basically forcing operating systems to verify the age of their users and pass that information along, excuse me, to all the websites that they visit. Linux is going to be your saving grace here. Unfortunately, these features are being rolled out actively by the open source community in systemd, which is the initialization system for a lot of Linux distributions. Now, how does this actually play out long term? To be determined. To be determined. Ultimately, what systemd is basically packaging into their piece of software is, frankly, the ability for this to occur, but they are not actually doing the enforcement. I suspect distributions like Ubuntu would actually have to activate that feature in order to actually force their users to verify their age. But we're living in interesting times. The the surveillance capitalism is just becoming more and more prominent, and frankly, the overall level of competency in the market, that being the users of these systems, are starting to seek alternatives and want a more personalized, customizable experience. And with AI tools nowadays, on top of all of that, the sky is the limit here. So that's what we're doing. We're working through setting up a Gentoo system, which is probably the most powerful system you could ever opt into in terms of configuration and customization. But it is not for the faint of heart. But if you're following along, you might realize that this is something you might want to try. But again, if it's too much for you to chew out the gate, Highly recommend other Linux distributions as well. Arch Linux is also just as customizable. It uses systemd by default, unfortunately. Um, but that's probably a step down from the Gentoo experience in terms of, level of expertise required in order to have an enjoyable experience. Backing away from Arch, if you want a more customizable experience, you're probably getting into the realm of distributions like Linux Mint, Ubuntu, stuff like that. There's not a lot of like in between, in my opinion. So a lot of folks in our community really like Linux Mint. It is a great experience for those who are used to Windows. So highly recommend that if you're willing to try out something even more new or foreign to what you're used to. Try Ubuntu, Pop! OS. There's so many distributions out there. There's more than you can shake a stick at. But with that said, as we usually do around here, for those of you who are tuning in early, make sure you're saying hi in chat or dropping your X handle. We'll get you hooked up with some Quai. We are streaming on X, YouTube, and Twitch. So I'll try to check in with the chat along the way. But I'll give you guys a few more seconds to check in and say hi, just like Michele did here. He earned 5 Quai just for doing so. So, let's go, guys. Let's freaking do it. Oh man, Alan is just going ham on X right now, pulling in some big numbers, picking some fights, making some moves, taking some spots, getting some kills, as we used to say in tournament paintball. His tweets lately have been absolute bangers. Oh man, those are good. Those are good. All right, where are we at here? I think two, no, four. Okay. Still getting used to my new window manager. I've been using Hyperland for maybe a little over a month now. I absolutely love it, actually, frankly. So eventually I'll get into how I've set up Hyperland. We'll do that on our Gentoo system. But for now, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and dive into the content, shall we? So, just a reminder, where we set off over here, we are running a Gentoo Linux virtual machine where we're doing all this work. I won't dive into this too much, but let's boot up our Gentoo system. Here we go. All right, guest is not running. Let's kick this thing off, and then you know what? I'm gonna go full screen. Look at that, beautiful, beautiful. So Grub has a graphical user interface. The init system does not. This whole boot up here does not have a graphical interface. And here in a moment, you'll see our login also doesn't have a graphical interface. That's the thing that we're hoping to fix today is our login. One other thing I'm going to do is show you guys how to install binary packages on Gentoo Linux. So, like I said, by default, all packages installed on Gentoo via emerge. Wait, my bad. All packages installed on Gentoo by default are source packages. So you download the source code, you compile the source code, and then those binaries get installed. It took, I think, a little over an hour to get the kernel compiled. It took about 155 minutes to get our desktop environment compiled. Um, what is even bigger than both of those things are web browsers. Web browsers are absolute beasts. So today, based on the last stream, you'll see we can use the start X command to boot up our desktop environment here, we went ahead and um, you know, played around with changing the theme and the background. Let's try this one. What does that one look like? Oh, that's not bad. I kind of like that. This one, that's not bad as well. Kind of like that one. What about this one? Ooh, fancy. I'm gonna stick with this one for now. I kind of like this one. But we don't have much in here, right? We don't even have a web browser installed on this system right now. Okay, so there's not much you can do in here. You can, you know, open your files, browse around. This is completely empty. This whole system is real fresh, real fresh. So all we really have is a terminal, albeit in a window manager in a desktop environment with a nice bar up here that gives us the date the user logged in. We can lock screen, switch user, etc. But we don't really have any applications installed here. So real quick, before I get into setting up a login manager, I want to be able to browse the internet, right? We have internet access, right? I can ping Google, but I don't have a browser installed. And like I said, installing a browser from source will take forever. So instead of compiling from source, Gentoo does have binary packages available, right? So if I search for Google here, you can see that we have a lot of Google related packages, but the ones at the bottom were what I was really interested in. And I wonder if, yeah, there we go. So you can hold Alt and right click to resize windows in XFCE. Um, just a FYI. But you'll see here, this package is actually a binary package. Okay, this is the web browser from Google. It's basically based on Chromium. This is Google's version of Chromium, their prepackaged version. We could install the actual Chromium package itself. Okay, and there should be binary versions of this as well. But what I'm going to do, yeah, so you see here, this is the open source version of the Google Chrome web browser. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to install the binary version of Google Chrome. So this will just download, extract, and I'll be ready to rock and roll. Now there still might be some packages I need to install as dependencies, but let's check it out. Google Chrome. All right. So, as we can see here, Gentoo is basically telling us all e-builds that could satisfy. An e-build is a Gentoo portage package. They've been masked. Masked means that they are blocked effectively, but it'll tell you why. It's blocked by the Google Chrome licenses. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to accept the Google Chrome license. So one of the things I can do is I can accept this globally if I want to by editing the global configuration file here and add Google Chrome to the accept license variable. The other thing I can do if I cd etc portage package accept, I think it's license. Yeah. You see we have package in here like Linux firmware that has the variables for accepting the Linux firmware. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to echo www client Google Chrome. And I'm going to say Google Chrome for the Google Chrome license. And then I will pipe that to sudo t and then we'll put it in Google Chrome. Okay, so now we have a Google Chrome file, and if I cat Google Chrome, that is the license we accept for this package specifically. So the next time I try to install this package, remember -p is pretend, -v is verbose. It's going to pull in a total of 18 new packages. So these are some of the dependencies. They're relatively small. Okay. So what I'm going to do before I kick this off is I'm just going to double check that this package is the binary, because uh, don't want to kick off. That compilation will probably take all day. I'll be frank with you guys. Compiling Chromium takes all day, even on some intense hardware. So let me just do some Googling in the background here. Mm, yeah, I think this is the binary. Gentoo, Google, Chrome, binary. Yeah, that's the binary. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and kick this off. This shouldn't take too long. It's just a bunch of tiny dependencies, and we'll see how it goes. Oh, okay. So it's asking for some more use flags here. Again, we're on a default profile, which doesn't pre-configure a bunch of use flags. Text is a pretty common use flag, but for this particular situation, I will go to package.use and I will echo app text XML2 text use flag, pipe it to sudo t XML2. Okay, so now I have XML2 in here, and that should be basically I'm saying for XML2 set the text use flag, and we'll try it again. All right. So 18 packages in total, 17 dependencies, and Google Chrome. All right. So the final dependency was just installed, which is cups, which is used for printing. So if you're ever wondering what supports printing on Linux, it's cups. And here we are downloading and installing, unpacking Google Chrome. There we go. Not that bad. Didn't take too long. We got a news item we can read. So let's sudo eselect news read. Pipe it. Actually, I'm in a GUI now. I don't need to pipe this. I can scroll. Look at this. Okay. So cups no longer directly depends on its filters. Not something we really care about right now since we're not printing. But yeah, good to know. Google Chrome is installed. And now if I click this, I can select the text browser or I can select Google Chrome and I can fire up Google Chrome. It's going to ask me to create a keyring for the first time. So this is what's going to be used to kind of secure your passwords in your session here on your desktop environment. This is the genome or gnome keyring. So just make sure you use the same password every time you want to unlock your keyring. We will make it the default browser, and we don't want to send any stats to Google. But here we go, guys. We are into Google. We're not going to sign in here. We're just going to go to we're gonna look at Linux display managers. See how easy that was to set up Google Chrome? Not too bad, right? Not too bad. So a Linux display manager, often called a login manager, is the graphical interface that greets you after booting your computer. Its primary jobs are to authenticate your credentials and launch your chosen desktop environment or window manager. All right, there are a bunch of them out there. Um, GDM is the larger genome display manager. It's the default for genome-based distributions like Ubuntu and Fedora. Highly stable, supports both X11 and Wayland, and has a modern, polished appearance. SDDM is the modern standard for KDE Plasma. It's built on Qt instead of GTK. And then LightDM is a lightweight cross-desktop option developed by Canonical. Canonical is the team behind Ubuntu, actually. It's popular on XFCE and Mate desktops because it consumes fewer resources than GDM or SDDM and supports various greeters or login style screens. There's some other ones here. There are terminal login managers. There's the original XDDM display manager, etc. We're going to go with LightDM today because it should be the quickest to install. And again, folks, whenever you're curious about how to, do it properly, or if you ever run into any issues installing any of these systems, always swing by the Gentoo docs. These are highly developed, so super cool. As you can see here, these are the use flags for LightDM. We already have some of these set up for the system, like eLogInD. And then there's some options for configuring it. Currently, Gentoo does not support the Qt greeter since it was moved out into its own project called Qt LightDM greeter. So we'll be using GTK, which we already have all the dependencies installed for it since XFCE here it uses GTK. But when you want to run this at boot, you're going to do the new OpenRC way by using the display manager init script for OpenRC. That's here on Gentoo. So first things first, let us sudo pretend emerge lightdm and see what happens. Boom. Okay, so we're going to bring in some dependencies here. Nothing too crazy. An account service, Yelp, group, and then we'll actually bring in LightDM. This shouldn't take hardly any time at all. We didn't have any warnings or anything like that. Let's go ahead and try to emerge. 9 new packages. And we're off. All right. LightDM is compiled. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Make sure you always read these messages at the end. This doesn't apply to us today, but it might apply to you in the future. Who knows? So LightDM is now officially installed, folks. It's that easy. Um, what we want to do is use the Gentoo preferred way of starting LightDM at boot. This is with the display manager initialization script. That's going to be the preferred way to do this and get this up and running at boot. So let's go with that. Sudo emerge again, pretend verbose display manager. What was that called? Display dash manager dash init. Just one tiny package here. Oh, looks like it's already installed. See that R over here on the ebuild list? That means reinstall. So we already have it installed. Great. So to configure LightDM to start at boot, all we need to do really is edit the display manager. I think it's default display manager. XDM, no, conf.d, display manager. There we go. And instead of XDM over here, as you can see, what display manager to use, you can set a variety. We're going to go with LightDM. Oh, that is a root owned file, so let's sudo this. LightDM. All right. Next thing we want to do is we want to RC service. Let's see, RC update. Let's add display manager to. Let's add it to the default run level. Oh, I gotta sudo that. There we go. Okay. Now, when we reboot here, we will see the LightDM display manager or login manager start at boot, ask us to log in with our preferred user, and then we should launch right into our desktop environment. So, one more piece of fun graphics. Boom, boom. All right, here's our graphical login manager or display manager. I can choose my session over here. We're going to stay on XFCE. Actually, we want XFCE. There we go. And we can log in. Could not connect. No such file or directory. Hmm. So that's not working. All right. Well, no worries. We'll figure this out. I'm going to go ahead and send key. Let's do Control F1. Get back to the terminal here. And let's log in as Matt. Let's do start X. All right. Let's fire up our browser real quick. See, it's asking us for that keyring password again. Now we can unlock our keyring. And let's head over to Gentoo LightDM. All right. So down here, let's do troubleshooting. Unlock you can unlock your keyring automatically at login. That's pretty cool. You can run commands at login. You know what I'll do? Let's check. Let's see if there's any logs here. cd sudo tail-fr log syslog. Ooh, a lot of information. Oops. Let's do this. Let's do grep dash grep. No, let's do sudo cat var log syslog grep I lightdm. Well, RC service lightdm. Let's display manager. Let's stop the display manager. Let's log out here. And let's try this again. Sudo RC service display manager start. Okay, we want an XFCE session. What happens if I just do X session? There. That worked. All right. I don't know why it asked me to log in twice. Interesting. Interesting. Let's send key. Send key. Hmm. Hmm. Well, troubleshooting. What happens when I type start XFCE 4? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Uh, Type that in. Gentoo light DM can't start XFCE. Fixing. Ensure have the necessary use flags. Yeah, yeah. Ensure the greeter session. Oh, we have a form issue here. Move replace the old and restarted with Viola. Light DM X session. This is interesting. Do we have a terminal yet? Let's take a look at this. Let's look at cat Etsy light DM X session. Exec command. Hmm. Exit with session. No such file or directory. Interesting. What does Reddit have to say? Always check multiple sources. And dbus has only. Oh, do we have a dbus issue? Okay, hold up. Sudo emerging pv dbus. Sys apps. So just to be clear, oh yeah, so we have some new use variables. See this? All right, see how these are green with a star next to them? Basically says that these use variables were added after dbus was installed here. Okay, that's what that's saying. So dbus is not compiled for X or elognd support. That is probably our issue actually. So what I'm going to do is I could just recompile this program right now, but since we've added some new use variables since the beginning, what I'm going to do is do a capital N for new. So re-emerge anything with new that new use flags have made an impact on. PV at world and just see what it brings in. What other applications might need to be recompiled since we've updated our use flags. Firmware, dbus, and C matrix. Looks like some other utilities as well. Okay, not a big deal. Let's go ahead and pull the trigger on all of these actually. And we will check back in later. Again, folks, what we did here is install probably the most base Gentoo profile you can on AMD 64. We elected to not install a desktop profile, which would have come with a lot of these use flags out the gate, which would probably have mitigated these minor issues here. But no sweat, this is how you learn. This is how you get familiar with configuring your system, how you get up to speed on how portage works in Gentoo and all that jazz. In the future, we'll do a deep dive just on portage. But right now, it looks like we have a minor issue because dbus, which kind of manages sessions and allows applications to communicate with each other, was not compiled via source with support for elognd, which manages authenticated user sessions, or X, which is our window manager backend here. So we're just going to rebuild a few packages with these new use flags and take it from there. All right. Okay, so we just recompiled a few packages with some additional use flags supporting elognd and X. Lib firmware here also had the distribution kernel use flag, which it discovered was new. Looks like it's doing an init RAM FS generation, which is great. Just great. Distribution kernels on Gentoo are so easy to use. Highly recommend it. If you're super geeky, you can run your own, configure and compile your own kernel, but this is just too easy. All right, so I'm gonna go for the long shot here and just reboot again, and hopefully it works this time. For the full experience. All right, again, init is not graphical. We'll work on that later, but we should be dropped into LightDM, which is our graphical login here. It looks like it's picking up the wallpaper from XFCE. Let's see what happens. Nope, no dice. No dice. Okay. Let's leave full screen. Let's send key, control F1. Dbus is starting. Elogin D is starting. If I log in as Matt. Okay. Let's see here. Maybe what happens when I do this? Service display manager restart. Now that I'm logged in, oh. Nope. No, it doesn't like that. Let's try XFCE session here. There we go. Alright, that worked. Okay, so I was picking the wrong session there. But now what I can do is I can log out, and it should drop me back into XFCE. XFCE is noted up here in the top corner, and I can log in, and then boom, we're back in XFCE. So just for kicks, let's try this one more time. Let's reboot the whole system and demonstrate it working from start to finish. So we have a graphical boot manager. We have a non-graphical init, which will drop us into a graphical login. And then ultimately a graphical desktop environment. Nice. Okay, all that's working. Rock and roll, guys. That's pretty much the topic for today. We got LightDM, Display Manager, Login Manager set up. We can log in through the user interface, through the graphical user interface into our preferred desktop environment. We have a terminal here where we can work with the system. We also have Google Chrome installed. This is a binary package, right? So we didn't have to wait all day for Google Chrome to compile from source. There are definitely some packages out there that you might want to install the binary instead of compile it from source. But, you know, if you wanted all binaries, you would use something like Arch or Linux Mint or Ubuntu or something else. Compiling things from source is my personal preference. I like to be able to configure everything, make sure I only install and use exactly what I want to install and use. But where do we go from here? How much time we got left? We got some time. Let's see what it would take to get a graphical init system. Shall we? Shall we? So the easiest one to install and set up is called Plymouth. Plymouth is a boot splash used to show a splash screen during the system boot and shutdown. Plymouth provides flicker-free animated boot splashes with support for progress bars, solar flares, and other nifty things. In addition to OpenRC, it has full system D support. Okay, so I'm going to guess that our Linux distribution kernel is ready to go for Plymouth. That's the way it should be configured, but we'll find out. Step one, obviously, is to install Plymouth. This is pretty light package, so it shouldn't take too long. Let's find out what the requirements are for Plymouth. Boom. So we're going to install DRM, GTK, Pango, UDEV, cool stuff. So let's go ahead and get that installing. While that is installing, we're going to look at some init RAM FS generators. Okay. If it is installed, it says Draka should enable Plymouth automatically if it is installed. See Draka installation instructions. So we have Draka. That's what we were using to install our init RAM FS previously with the distribution kernel here. What we want to do is we also want to enable this, right? This Plymouth OpenRC plugin. And we want to make sure that RC is not interactive. So looks like this is almost done installing. There we go. Okay, cool. So now let's do sudo nano etsyrc.conf, and we can hit Control W for where and search RC interactive and set it to no. Cool. And then we can also emerge Plymouth OpenRC. What was that? Plugin dash plugin. And see what this brings in. All right. Okay, it's masked by the AMD64 keyword. This little tilde in front of AMD64 means that this package has basically been marked unstable. So by default, Gentoo isn't going to want to install unstable packages, but no sweat. We can easily change that to portage. Let's see, portage package.accept keywords. We don't have anything in here now, but what I can do is echo sys boot Plymouth OpenRC plugin, and then add this AMD64 keyword here, and then sudo t Plymouth OpenRC plugin. There, and we have a package in here. It has that which I just echoed, and we can try this again. Cool, ready to go. All right, let's install this. Meanwhile, we're going to have to regenerate the init RAM FS to actually use this. So what I want to do first is reconfigure grub. Yeah, no. Okay, so because we're using a distribution kernel, What I want to do, here we go. Um, Screw installation. Okay, okay, okay. Assigning kernel modules, generic UKI. Yep, yep, yep. Nope. Preparing a modified kernel using safe config. Um, we're gonna go here. Oh, supposedly we just run Dracut. Wow. All right, we should be good to go. So this is installed. What I will want to do is going back here. We'll just run Dracut. Oh, let's do force. I did not have this issue earlier. Why am I having this issue? Gentoo. What happens? Let's search this. Yada 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 yada. Oh, okay. So this is being brought in by Plymouth. Plymouth wants these fonts. So I think it's user share. Actually, look. Let me look at my other system over here real quick. Where are we? Let's see. Dracut dot D. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, we're gonna go to Etsy Dracut conf.d. Yeah, we only have a basic one in here. So what I will do is sudo nano. Let's do 10 i18n.conf, and we'll do i18n vars equals etsy conf.d keymaps keymap etsy env.d o2 locale lang. There. That should work. Let's try this again. All right, rock and roll. So ultimately, what happened, guys, is we installed Plymouth, which is going to give us a graphical boot. Plymouth depends on some font variables. Those font variables need to be configured for Dracut. Dracut's going to build Plymouth into our boot process for us. So that's what it did right here. But out of the box, Dracut was not pulling in the font variables that Plymouth needed. So that's good to go. The next thing I'll want to do is configure grub to basically uh, support a quiet boot splash here. These are going to be some options that are passed to Dracut when it hands off to the initram fs. So let's sudo nano se default grub. Okay, and we're looking for grub command line Linux default right here, and we're going to add quiet and splash. Okay. Other things we could do are set the graphics mode. I don't know. Let's try something real quick. Let's go to system display. So we're at 1280 by 800 here. Okay, we're at 1280 by 800. Can we go 1920 by 1080? Oh my gosh, that looks so much better. So much better. Look at that. Look at that. Should have done that a while ago. Cool. So this virtualization graphics card supports a whole bunch of resolutions. We'll keep it 1920 by 1080. So in graphics mode here, I'm going to set 1920 by 1080. And, oops. Let's do by 60. Is that right? Oh no. Let's just do 1920 by 1080. Let me look at my other configuration real quick. Default grub. We'll do by 32. By 32. And payload will be set to keep. All right. And then we will need to recreate our grub config. So sudo grub make config -out boot grub. Oh wait, we gotta mount boot. Because boot should already be mounted, right? Grep boot. Yeah, boot's mounted. So sudo grub make config boot grub.cfg. Oh, I gotta pipe it. Out boot grub config. There we go. So now we should get a graphical boot. Let's give it a shot. All right, you notice we have a better resolution on that grub bootloader here, and now we have like a graphical boot up. Not much going on here in this graphical boot up, but at least we're getting away from the terminal a little bit. Boom, boom. Okay, cool. We got some better resolution over here. Let's do one more thing. Let's set a theme, shall we? So let's go back to Gentoo Plymouth, and let's pick a Gentoo theme here. What's everybody's favorite theme? You know what? You know what? Why am I making this harder than it needs to be? So to set a theme, we have some default themes here. So I can do Plymouth, set default theme, and look at the list. We got a bunch in here. So let's pick one, shall we? Which one should we pick? Which one should we pick? Where are they installed? That's kind of my question here. Let's open up the file browser. Open folder. Let's go to the file system. I think it's in user lib. Is Plymouth in here? Oh, this is too small. Pam package Polkit. No, Plymouth isn't in here. Maybe it's in lib64. Pam. Nope. Maybe it's in local. Lib. Nope, nothing in there. Lib64. Nothing in there. Let's try user source. Nope. Share. Yeah, this looks better. There's Plymouth. All right, so we got some themes in here. We got BGRT. We got these are all kind of details. Solar. That comes with a nice graphic there. I like that. Fade in. That's all right. Glow. Oh, that's interesting. BizCom, whatever BizCom is, I don't know what that is. Script. Okay. Okay. Spinfinity. Not bad. We got a Gentoo logo in there. Spinner. Just a basic spinner. Okay. Text. That's just text. Script. Nothing fancy in there. Tribar. Nothing fancy in there. Solar's got a cool image. And yeah, let's just go with solar. Let's do that. Let's just go with solar because we can. So the command here is going to be set theme solar. Oh, there we go. Now when we reboot, we can see our boot up and boot down graphics. Fun. Fun, fun. So these are all highly customizable, y'all. You can see we got a progress bar here. The system's going to boot back up. We got better resolution on this screen. Once it boots, it's going to drop us into our graphical boot up here. Oh, I got to redo the init system. I got to redo the init RAM-FS. Okay. One last change here. Since we set our theme, we need to do that. So set the theme to solar. Now we run Dracut again. And this time, guys, this time when we reboot, because Dracut will pull in the proper theme. Basically, every time you change the theme for Plymouth, you're going to want to you're gonna want to regenerate the init RAM-FS. Okay, so now the boot down is set because that's running live. Next time when we boot up, we'll have a new theme. Booting in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Boom. Rock on. All right, our system is booting up. We got a graphical boot here. Oh, the beauty of this, guys, is all of this is configurable. All of this is highly, highly customizable. So one of the things I like to do is just pick a wallpaper that I love that I'm going to stick with for a while and just set all my themes across the entire system based on that wallpaper, right? So there you have it, guys. We have a fully graphical boot up, shut down, log in desktop environment in Gentoo, in a couple of hours, just emerging everything, compiling some projects from source, getting our Google Chrome from a binary package, and we're off to the races, y'all. We're off to the races. So next up will probably be just like testing all the peripherals on this system. Let's see if audio works. Make sure you guys can hear this. What do I even? I'm gonna risk free music. No copyright. Uh, Here we go. Let's see if we can hear this.
How much could you save by switching your car insurance to
Oh
Quai?
no, we got
Well,
ads.
let's say
Holy
this
cow.
is you.
Well, at least we figured out music is working, right? Cool. Not bad. All right, so we got audio working. We got the graphics working. We are in a full desktop environment from scratch on Gentoo. We'll dive back in another episode and configure this thing even further. Probably play around with some Wayland and some new window managers, but we definitely need to theme this whole thing here. Uh, this background's great. I love it, but a consistent theme from boot up to shutdown to login, all that jazz would be really cool to see. So stay tuned for more. We'll be continuing to configure this system to be a beautiful system that we love to work in, and then we'll start building some cool stuff in it. So stick around, guys. We got more content on the way, but for now, really appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Hope you all have a good evening, and oh, one last thing. One last thing. I will see you guys in the Matrix. Ha ha ha.